The birth of Nigeria. How one woman's idea created Africa's giant. Opening. Imagine this. Over 250 ethnic groups, speaking more than 500 languages, practicing different religions, with ancient rivalries and completely different ways of life, all forced into one country by a single pen stroke. This is the story of how Nigeria came to be. The land before Nigeria. Before there was ever a Nigeria, this land was alive with kingdoms and empires that would make European monarchies jealous. In the north, the Sokoto Caliphate ruled over millions, one of the largest empires in Africa. The Hausa city-states like Kano were bustling trade centers where caravans crossed the Sahara bringing salt, gold, and knowledge from across the Islamic world. In the southwest, the Oyo Empire commanded respect and fear. Their cavalry was legendary, and their political system was so sophisticated that it had checks and balances the British could only dream of at the time. The Benin Empire in the south had artisans creating bronze sculptures so magnificent that when Europeans first saw them, they couldn't believe Africans had made them. Their capital was described by Dutch visitors as larger and better organized than Amsterdam. And in the southeast, the Igbo people had developed a democratic system of governance without kings. Every town was essentially a republic. These weren't random villages. These were civilizations with their own currencies, laws, armies, and trading partners across continents. Enter the British. The British didn't just wake up one day and decide to create Nigeria. It started with something dark, the slave trade. Lagos became a major slave port, and when Britain abolished slavery in 1807, they got involved in the region to stop it, though really, they were looking for new ways to make money. Enter palm oil. The Industrial Revolution needed it for machines, soap, and candles. The Niger River basin had plenty of it. A private company, yes, a company, not even a government, called the Royal Niger Company started making deals, signing treaties with local chiefs. Many of these chiefs didn't realize they were signing away their sovereignty. Some couldn't even read the documents they were marking. By 1900, the British government said, "Thanks, but we'll take it from here," and seized control from the company. The man and the woman who named a nation. Here's where it gets interesting. Lord Frederick Lugard was the British officer conquering the north. Tough guy, military man, but he had a problem. These territories were expensive to run. The north was poor in resources, but large in land. The south was rich in palm oil and trade, but needed security. His solution, merge them. But there was someone else in this story, Flora Shaw. She was a British journalist, one of the first female war correspondents, and she would later become Lugard's wife. In the 1890s, she wrote an article suggesting that all these British territories along the Niger River should have one name. She proposed Nigeria. Just like that, Niger plus area equals Nigeria. On January 1st, 1914, Lugard officially merged the northern and southern protectorates. Nigeria was born, not from the will of its people, but from a colonial accountant's spreadsheet. The problem with forced marriage. Imagine you're forced to marry someone you've never met, who speaks a different language, worships differently, eats different food, and has customs you don't understand. That's essentially what happened. The Muslim North, with its emirate system and Islamic law, was now joined with the predominantly Christian and traditional religion South. The Hausa Fulani, Yoruba, and Igbo, who had been separate peoples with their own identities for centuries, were now told they were all Nigerians. Lugard knew this wouldn't be easy, so he created indirect rule, letting local chiefs and emirs manage their people while ultimately answering to the British. This kept existing divisions alive rather than building unity. The fight for freedom. For nearly 50 years, Nigerians lived under British rule. But the spirit of independence never died. Heroes emerged. Herbert Macaulay, the grandfather of Nigerian nationalism. Nnamdi Azikiwe, who inspired a generation. Obafemi Awolowo and Ahmadu Bello, who led their regions towards self-governance. Students returned from studying abroad with new ideas about freedom and democracy. Workers formed unions. Political parties emerged, though often along ethnic lines, another legacy of how Nigeria was created. Finally, on October 1st, 1960, the British flag came down and the green-white-green flag went up. Nigeria was independent. The legacy. So what does this mean for Nigeria today? That arbitrary creation in 1914 still affects everything. The ethnic tensions, the religious divides, the regional politics, all of it traces back to how Nigeria was forced together. But here's the beautiful paradox. Despite being an artificial creation, Nigeria has become one of Africa's most influential nations. Its people have created a shared culture through music, film, food, and entrepreneurship that's spreading across the world. Nigeria wasn't born from love or shared history. It was born from colonial convenience. But the Nigerian people have been writing their own story ever since. Closing. The story of Nigeria's birth isn't a simple tale of heroes and villains. It's complicated, messy, and still unfolding. Understanding where Nigeria came from helps us understand where it's going. And that's the story of how one woman's newspaper article and one man's administrative decision created Africa's most populous nation.
Nigeria, we stand united! Yes, united! For our future, we rise!